Thank you, Dennis, and thank you all for coming. It's really nice to have a full big crowd here, and to be back at the store where we survived a power outage. I wish you could have been there that day. It was amazing.
There was magic.
There was magic. It was fabulous.
And Jimmy was definitely with us that day. Well, tonight I'm going to discuss my new book, Hendrix on Hendrix, and tell you a little bit about myself, how I became a Hendrixologist, a new word in the dictionary. Okay, this is how I got started becoming a Jimi Hendrix fan. This is a photo of me. I had lots of hair back in 1967, and I turned on my FM radio at the time.
I wouldn't dare go on stage. No, you know, like I joined this band, I knew about 3 songs. And when it was time for us to play on stage, man, I was like this, you know. And then I had to play behind the curtains, you know. I couldn't get up in front. So after, and then plus you get so very discouraged. You hear different bands playing around you, and the guitar player seems like it's always so much better than you are, you know. And then most people give up at this point because, you know, they get very discouraged. But it's best not to, you know, just keep on, just keep on.
Lazy, they're scared, and plus they didn't think they're going to get paid. So quite naturally we'll get paid on the audition, you know, because like it's us, you know, going down there, being aggressive, you know, it's us going down, filtering down to them, you know. So there's a few things you have to give up in the beginning. Didn't want to do that, so I just went down there and played, got Randy, California together, and formed this group called the Blue Flame. And have you heard of the Animals? Well, the managers of the Animals. You know, the Animals were in town one time doing the last gig at Central Park, doing the last gig as a group. And the bass player of the Animals, Chas Chandler and Mike Triffitt, asked if I'd like to come to England. And I've never been to England before. That's the only reason, because I've never been.
I think there was a little bit more of that. I think Jimmy's not telling the complete truth there. There was a lot more than just going to England. He really wanted to make it big, and he did, practically overnight, within a few weeks, but even before he formed his own group, he played with a Cream, with Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, 2 songs. One was a Muddy Waters song, and we don't know what the other one was. I'm sorry, it was a Howlin' Wolf song. And just blew Eric off the stage. Eric left the stage shaking, had to get a cigarette. Jimmy made his impact.
Supposed to be something very new and very fresh and different. How do you feel about that yourself?
There's so many different outlets, you know, we have so many different things. Like, hey Jules, there's one little, about 100, you know, of our feelings. That's why we recorded it, you know. So we have so many different other sounds, you know, that we just barely begun.
They just barely begun.
It's really like, it's like over here, you know. So, you know, it's just, America's just like any other country, it just takes a little more time, that's all.
So, Jimi Hendrix came to America, as we all know the story, played his American debut at the Monterey Pop Festival, sets his guitar on fire, and starts getting headlines here. Of course, the way management wanted to market him then was by the sex and the gimmicks and playing the guitar wild and everything like that. So that's the way they started doing that. But it clashed when he went on tour with the Monkees. He was labeled too erotic and not right for the 7 to 12-year-old female set. Eventually there was an all blues album, which is incredible. I don't know if any of you have heard that, of Hendrix just playing blues, called Jimi Hendrix Blues. Pick that up if you haven't already. So we're going to jump ahead to 1969 now. Hendrix is busted as he's coming over the Canadian border for hashish and heroin, May 3rd, 1969. It makes the cover of Rolling Stone. It's a really big deal. These 2 guys get involved. J. Edgar Hoover of the FBI, President Nixon. J. Edgar Hoover starts a FBI file on Jimmy. That in the book. It's kind of a funny short story that Jimmy blew up his amp while on stage, and Flip Wilson is ad-libbing, you know, saying that, you know, the Joey Bishop show is just a notch away. Come on, fix it up, Jimmy, let's get going. So let's listen to a question that Cavett asked, a very deep question. I mean, this is American TV, 1969, on Jimmy's philosophy of what electric church music is.
I turned him on, it's really amazing.
I want to clear something with you. I heard you use the expression an electric church as an ambition you had. Was this speaking metaphorically or poetically, or do you really want to...
Well, let's see, I don't know. It's just a belief that I have, you know. We do use electric guitars. Everything, you know, is electrified nowadays, you know. So therefore the belief comes into, you know, through electricity to the people, whatever. That's why we play so loud, because it doesn't actually hit through the eardrums like most groups do nowadays. You know, they say, well, we're going to play loud too because they're playing loud. And they got this real shrill sound, you know, it's really hard. We're playing for our sound to go inside the soul of the person, actually, you know, and see if they can awaken some kind of thing in their minds, you know, because there's so many sleeping people. You can call it that if you want to.
Pretty heavy for 1969 if you were tuning in late at night and watch that. So that's in the book. Both interviews are there. And his trial, he was acquitted. A reporter came forward, actually gave testimony that a lot at that time, including the Beatles, they were given gifts by fans that they didn't know about, and this happened to be one of those cases where a fan had heard that he was sick, was having stomach troubles, and gave him an Alka-Seltzer bottle filled with heroin. Said, "Here, Jimmy, this will make you feel better." And you know, he was hurried to get on a flight, didn't check his bag, nobody checked the bags, comes to customs. So that got him off. Here's an interesting interview. Again, a female reporter going to University of Southern California approaches Hendrix's management and says, "I'd like to interview Jimmy. I'm working on my master thesis. Can I do this?" So here's a clip from that.
What do you think the sound of the future will be then?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a critic. You know, I can just only go by what I want. On my own side, I'd like to get into more symphonic things, so then kids can respect the old music, traditional, you know, like classics. I'd like to mix that in with, you know, with so-called rock today. But it's always changing according to the attitude of the people, you know. When the air is static, loud, and aggressive, that's how the music gets. When the air starts getting peaceful and harmonic and so forth, that's how the music will get. So that's up to the people, how it's going to be. But the music is going to be, regardless if it's rock or whatever, you know. And it's going to influence a whole lot of people's minds now, because like I said before, that's part of their church now.
Well, music is considered extremely emotional, and it's supposed to rid the individual of frustration. That's what they say.
Yeah, if people let it.
It does. It's marvelous.
Yeah, instead of trying
I can tell you that from my own experience. I'm really uptight, I'm tense and everything. I go to somewhere like whiskey and really enjoy myself.
Or either listen to Andy Williams or something. You know? For instance, you know.
This was done about a week before he died, and then this was published just after he died. It's called The Last Interview with Hendrix. I listened to the tapes, I transcribed the tapes over several months and listened to them with headphones on to get as accurate as what Jimmy was saying, because Jimmy, as some of you might know, mumbled when he was talking, and he said words, you know, that just, you know, he just repeated like we all do. So I took some of those out, but, you know, going from 67, 68, 69, around 68, 69, I start to notice Hendrix is a lot more serious. He sounds a lot more exhausted, and that happens on this recording of what the reporter who taped it, thankfully, what Jimmy said. Listen to the tone of his voice. Also understand, too, that this is a very difficult time for Jimmy. Hendrix didn't want to go on this European tour in 1970. He had just, his New York recording studio had just been completed. Electric Ladyland was built for Jimmy. It was going to be his new home. He ran up recording bills all around the country, recording studios, so they said, "We'll build you your own recording studio in New York, Jimmy." So he wanted to get in there. It was a new toy to him, wanted to play, wanted to finish up this new album, double album that was called First Rays of the New Rising Sun. He didn't want to go out on tour. He had been on tour in America through the summer, through the spring, but his management said, "You got to get out on tour and you got to pay for this thing." He was starting to come down with a cold, different climate changes as he's going from England to Germany and Sweden on this tour. Gets about a week into the tour, Billy Cox has some punch that somebody slips some LSD into. This is the first time Billy has tried LSD and has a very bad experience. So he decides to go home after this gig at the Isle of Famart on September 6th to recuperate and spend some time with his family. Mitch Mitchell, the drummer, his wife has a baby. He wants to spend time with her. All of a sudden, Jimmy has no band. There are tour dates lined up. The record company is getting crazy because he hasn't put out an album since 1968. They put out a greatest hits album just to satisfy the record-buying public. So listen to his voice here. He tries to be jovial, he tries to be friendly, but you know, maybe it's just me, but I listen to these tapes. I hear kind of a depressed Hendrix who wants to look for something solid that he can grab onto. New band members, finish this recording, but give this a listen.
Do you personally feel that the excitement has gone out of things? I mean,
no, I was feeling like that before because I was thinking too fast, you know. It seems like, you know, a person has a tendency to get bored because, like, he always wants to try to do all these accomplishments, you know. Like starting an idea, something like that, and never quite finishing it out, you know.
Do you feel that that you've never really been truly criticized as a songwriter?
Well, probably it was a good thing because I'm still trying to get that together, you know. All I'm writing is this is what I feel, that's all. I didn't be put as only a guitar player or either only as a songwriter or only as a tap dancer or something like this, you know. I like to move around, you know, I like to move around.
Is it important for you to achieve recognition as a songwriter?
I don't know, really. I guess it would be if I wanted to stay back and predominantly write songs when I can't go on stage anymore.
You were quoted in one paper as saying that you didn't really care what you did as long as you turned people on. Right? Now, what do you want to turn people on to apart from your music? Is there any moral or political intent in the kind of things you want to write?
Oh, no, I like them to get easier in the mind a little bit because there's too many heavy songs out nowadays. Music is getting, you know, or at least it has been getting too heavy, like, you know, almost to the state of unbearable, you know. I was one of those saying, when things get too heavy, just call me helium. The lightest known gas to man. But then again.
So where are your inspirations or songs coming present time, and where are you turning to for your directions? As a writer?
From my recent experiences. What I try to do is like look at the totality of that and give them the other half. You know, first of all, you have the one half, and then the second half, the solution or whatever it might be, which is the second. First of all, you have the experience and you have the use of it all, you know. And like, I was just trying to go through a lot of changes so I could write the nice parts about it, you know. But right now, it's taking a while.
Do you feel at all concerned that, I mean, you have been quoted as saying in the past that music will, the next
classic.
No, the next wheel, as it were, the next circle of music, that we're now at an end of something. The next stage of music, popular music, will change the world. Do you really believe that, or do you believe that music is a reflection of the world?
Yeah, well, so it's a reflection. But like if they see, then well, the reflection of the world is like blues. That's where the music. That's where that part of the music is at. But then you got this other kind of music that's trying to come around. It's not sunshine music necessarily, it's, you know, but it's like a more easier type of thing, with less words, you know, and more meaning to it, you know. You don't have to be singing about love all the time in order to give love to the people, you know. You don't have to keep flashing those words, love, all the time.
So that's where the book ends. That's his last interview before he left this planet. I felt it was important not to end the book there. I added an appendix onto the book, and I included an interview that I did when I was doing Straight Ahead with Eric Burden, who knew Jimmy quite well. Although it's not mentioned in the interview, but Eric Burden saw Jimmy when he was performing with Little Richard at the Paramount Theater in April of 1965. It's kind of a funny story in my second book there, Becoming Jimi Hendrix, where Jimmy actually held Little Richard in a chokehold to stop him from calming down because they had just fired him from the act at the Paramount Theater with soupy sales. Yeah, so that's in the second book. But anyway, Eric knew Jimmy from 65, 66. The Jimi Hendrix Experience was forming and looking and auditioning band members. Eric was there. 67, they were at the same festival in the Monterey Pop '68, they were in tour in Switzerland. And '69, they were at the Newport Pop Festival on the same bill together. And '70, ironically enough, about 3 days before Jimmy died, Eric Burdon had formed a new group called War and invited Hendrix to come sit down. Luckily enough, once again, there was somebody with a tape recorder and recorded that. And that's Hendrix's final public appearance jam. An incredible song. They did Mother Earth and Tobacco Road, and that's out there. So that's where the book ends. There's also some bonus material if you go to my website, steveroby.com, and I included this. This lady here, this is Mitch Mitchell, the drummer, and this is Monica Damon taken at a Hendrix tribute concert in Seattle. I took that photo. Somebody was telling me they think that's Rosie O'Donnell there, but I can't guarantee that there. Anyway, Monica Damon was Jimmy on the night that he died. She spent about the last 3 or 4 days with Jimmy in the middle of September of 1970. I found this guy in my travels who was a screenwriter who decided to interview Monica in 1994, just shortly before she died, and asked her very detailed questions about Jimmy and their final days together. So I transcribed that interview, and that's on my website, free material, bonus material that goes along with the book. Let's give a listen to that, some of that interview there. This is Alan Greenberg speaking.
Oh man, Monica, you have pictures here that are just incredible. I don't care if it's a little out of focus. You know, it doesn't matter. It's beautiful.
I mean, I've got more than that, but they're the best ones, really.
This is the same, this is the innocent Jimmy that could have been in Seattle as a youth with his broom, you know? I mean, this is the same one.
That is the real Jimmy. That is not, that was him, the
Because the real artist has an eternal child that never dies.
Yeah.
And this is, you photographed it. This is the proof. Oh, man. For me, to envision him when I write, this is very important for me to have seen. That was his whole struggle, to keep that child alive. That was it.
And he kept it alive.
He kept it alive, you know? And it's the child here that's sad because the child knows something that the man doesn't at this point. The child knows he's going to die. There's like a sadness and a resignation to it.
But I tell you one thing. Like I said before, I mean, before the last few days before his death, there were some things he said, you know, which made me later. I mean, we talked so much the last few days, and so they were scattered. These what he said to me, it didn't trigger anything in me. So there was one time where he said to me, I want you never to forget that if I'm not with you anymore, my spirit will be always with you. So I said to him, what do you mean?
When was this, like 3 days?
That was about 3 days or 2 days before he died. And I said, what do you mean? I said, we will be together, so why do you say that? He said, oh, I just want you not to forget that my spirit will be always with you. So it didn't sound, so I said, what do you precisely mean? And I think he commented on that something disturbed me there. So he said to me, he said, well, if I'm on tour, for example,
putting you at ease.
Yes, and he was putting me at ease this way, and I sort of fell for it because he went then quickly into another subject, and as usually something very, very interesting, you know. So I forgot about that. Only after he died, I remembered this, for example, you know. But there were that was the strongest, where I thought something's not quite right the way he said it.
So again, that was Monica Damon speaking, and that interview is on my website, steveroby.com, along with a 1967 interview that's not in the book that Jimmy did. So that's bonus material. How did he die? Very good question. Well, we know the cause of death. We don't really know why he died, but he died on his choking on his own vomit. Yeah, exactly. He ingested 9 of Monica's not sleeping pills, painkillers that were a German brand that really should have been broken into quarters or thirds for enough for relief from pain. She was an ice skating champion. She had some leg problems. She had them on her possession at the time. But there are a lot of theories and conspiracy theories of how Jimmy died, and I'm not really going to go into that a lot tonight, but if you Google that on the internet, you can read anybody from the FBI, the CIA, to the evil manager who hired a hitman to kill Jimmy.
Down the mountain, Monica, who eventually killed herself.
Exactly. She committed suicide in 1996, I think it was. Yeah, I got a call at work.
Did she leave a note?
You know, I knew Monica pretty well, and I thought she would be the type of person that would write a nephew note to everybody. You know, she was at the time. The reason why, part of the reason why maybe she killed herself was she had just lost a legal battle with another one of Jimi Hendrix's girlfriends, who had accused her of in court and won that she said a libelous statement against her. So after losing that trial, about a day or so later, she got a pipe from the exhaust of her Mercedes and ran it into her car and turned it on. So a lot of the details that I don't know if we won't really ever find out because she took them with her. Yeah. So again, thank you all for coming. I'd like to open it up for Q&A right now. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me.
How do you decide what material to put in, what material to take out? What were your criteria?
Good question. The question was what made the cut, and what didn't make the cut, and what was my decision to put in there. I have an extensive archives of clippings and recordings and things like that, and I had to go overseas to get a few things that I didn't have in my collection. I wanted a good variety and not a collection that repeated itself. Some questions Hendrix was asked over and over, and I thought, well, let's do that once, but not again. So that's how things made the cut. I wanted it to be kind of accurate, tell his story in his own words, and move on. My role in the book was just to be like a tour guide, if you will. I just give short 1 to 2 sentences of here's where Jimmy was, here's what was going on in his life, and let him go. You know? So that's.
Do we know about his formal guitar training, like music school, or just pick it up without any?
He never went to music school. There was, interesting enough, one of his producers said after his death that there was plans to send him to the Juilliard School of Music. I know there was a misprint in the local paper here, but what was meant to be said, what the paper said was that he couldn't read or write. What I said was he couldn't read or write music. And so that was a challenge against him. So he carried around a notebook and a tape recorder with him everywhere he went to do that. His training, he says in the book, was just records and radio and determination. That's how he learned to play the guitar.
He played by ear. He just listened to something and just play it.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, and what I think is really fascinating too is on some of the solos back then, 67, 68, you hear him play a guitar solo reversed. What they did is they took the tape and reversed it so the solo plays backwards. But most people, I think that would just be a bunch of garbage, but it sounds melodic, like he could hear backwards what he was playing forwards, what the end result was, which I think is pure genius.
Well, there's one song, I forget the name, his picking is played in reverse. I don't know exactly the technology, but there's a song where he picked anyway, and it was done in a reverse fashion. I forget the song. Very good commercial song.
There's a few like that. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So great how you've, been so involved with his life and documented it. It's so wonderful. So what I want to know is, after all these years, what are the surprises or the things about him that keeps inspiring you, that you keep following Jimmy?
I think Jimmy's following me. The question was, what keeps inspiring me? I mean, I've done this practically since I was 12. What keeps inspiring? Jimmy's leading the way for me. This book, what inspired me to write this book was I walked into a bookstore like this, a good independent bookstore, and I saw a book on John Coltrane. It was Coltrane on Coltrane, and I love John Coltrane. And I thought, wait a minute, why isn't there a book on Jimi Hendrix? And the idea came to me, it's like, there needs to be a book of Jimmy in his own words. There was one other little tiny book. I think I read just about every book on Jimmy, but just that had short one-paragraph quotes, and it was about 40 pages. And I thought, no, that doesn't really do Jimmy justice. It doesn't say where the quotes came from, not in chronological order. And so to me, one of my passions was, well, let's approach a publisher and see if they'll take this idea. And they just said, yeah, it's never been done.
That's very interesting because 3 weeks ago I went back to my hometown in Huntington, New York, and John Coltrane was living in Dix Hills, Huntington, New York for a few years, and I went to his house, so that was really
Yeah. Well, just a little side note too is that I found it interesting when I was interviewing people for my second book on R&B, his R&B years, is that Jimmy got a chance to listen to Love Supreme, you know, in '66, I think it was. And so it's like, wow, okay, that says a lot. Just to I don't know if anybody's heard that who went to rock and John Coltrane, listen to Love Supreme and then listen to Hendrix and see where maybe some of those ideas came from. Sir?
Have you ever seen Hendrix play?
I saw Hendrix play 3 times in concert. After I bought the record, my next mission was to convince my parents to give me allowance money to spend on a concert ticket. I went to see him first at the Oakland Coliseum in 1969, and on the bill were Cat Mother and the All Night Newsboys, Chicago Transit Authority before they were called Chicago. And the fun thing at that show was that Terry Kath on guitar in Chicago, but Hendrix very seldom did encores, but that night, since it was near San Francisco, Jack Cassidy of the Jefferson Airplane, the bass player, came out and played with them to close the set.
He's also on Electric Lake.
He's also, yeah, right, so they were good friends. So the trio expanded to 4 people at that show, and that was, I was 13 at that time, I think, yeah. And then the second show was the Berkeley Community Theater first show, which was filmed, and that part of that's on Hendrix and Glasses. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate the time. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir. Sure, thank you, Dennis, for having us. Good stuff. I might even come back for Tommy Hawkins. Yeah. Yeah, it's good you're doing stuff like this.
All-American at Notre Dame. Worked for the Dodgers for 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I think some of his Dodgers
Oh, cool.
Daisy. One of Buzzy's.
Buzzy's, yeah, Buzzy used to be the owner.
I know we're going to have some sports people here that.
So why don't you give that to my son, Adam? And this was really great. Very interesting. I don't know if I ever told you this. I used to draw him.
You have a couple.
You used to draw him?
You have a couple signs later on, right?
And I don't even draw. I'm a writer. And I used to draw him when I was like 18.
Okay, so I'll come back. We'll have them tomorrow.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody compiled all of these interviews and stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
You know, I mean,
seems like a thing to do, right?
yeah, you would think that you've seen
It's like no agenda here.
Everything's been released, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something new that comes out.
There's a new CD coming out next month of his studio material. So.
Really?
Yeah, brand new CD.
Where did they find out?
The guy, like I said, the guy was just a studio. He just loved being there, and then so as a result, we had hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, that's true.